And hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Stuart Irvine and welcome to episode 4 of my retro review series, where I look back at a certain year in wrestling history and watch all their pay-per-views from top to bottom. Last time he left us, he just came back from watching the disappointing WrestleMania 2000 with my old uni friend and big wrestling lover Carl Dixon. Sorry I've been a bit away since then. It's been, as you can guess, 2020 is going to be it'll be a crazy year, so it's been trying to find time to kind of start it all up again, but yeah, we're back. Obviously I hope you had an awesome Christmas. So to sort of end the year on a high and talk about something positive instead of all kind of negative stuff we've got going on at the moment, I'm going to be talking about Backlash 2000. Some people considered one of the greatest pay-per-views WWF ever produced, and obviously had a returning Stone Cold Steve Austin in the corner of The Rock to go against Triple H. So all kinds of stuff that's been before. It's going to be awesome to talk about it. Hope you enjoy, and let's go and get stuck right into it. So hit to the music.
So for the benefit of those with flash photography,
I told you, get your camera.
we have a brand new pose just for you.
What is your name? It doesn't matter what your name is.
You're fired.
That Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass.
Welcome to Raw is Jericho.
And that's the bottom line. The Stone Cold Center.
So yes, let's get stuck right into talking about this. Obviously Backlash 2000. It's an interesting pay-per-view. As I said, it's kind of remembered for Stone Cold Steve Austin's kind of return, being in the Rock's corner against Triple H, who had was it Vince McMahon in the corner and Stephanie McMahon. Obviously as Shane as the ref, so the stats against him, but Stone Cold is like two men. So that was a kind of big hook for this pay-per-view if you look back. But again, it had some cool stuff. I mean, in some ways it had some filler, kind of like, in between kind of feuds that leaded up to the kind of big ones that we all remember from the year 2000. So, but yeah, obviously had the Dean Malenko kind of Scotty to Hotty kind of match that I've heard great things about over the years, and watched it once, twice myself over the years, and still holds up as a very, very underrated kind of match between two relatively unknowns in the grand scheme of the Attitude Era. But yeah, obviously we had the weird feud between the Dudleys and the TNA, not the company, but the actual thing with Albert Tess and Trish Stratus. She was a valet before she became this kind of wrestling legend that she was. She turned it in the women's division anyway. But it's just one of these things. It's got the marquee thing that everyone remembers, but it's got hidden gems in it as well that kind of have really good solid matchups that really work personally. So it was it was going into, gotta be honest, I've never watched this. I didn't watch wrestling until like late 2000, early 2001. So I was behind the times a lot. So watching this is kind of like watching it for the first time. So it's really fun, gotta be honest. Especially when it's like, I hear all these things over the years, but finally have the time to kind of look back at this era, this great era in wrestling. And this kind of series, as kind of as said before, was kind of come across as a kind of rekindle my love for wrestling. Kind of remind me why I love this and why I keep making a lot of content on it. But obviously we have this year's been great for 2020. I mean, when it comes to wrestling, in my opinion. But obviously we'll get to that with my kind of other podcast with my mate Josh, where we talk about that. So that'll be in the next couple of days. But that's fine. It's just fun to watch this. But yeah, so obviously this pay-per-view was kind of at the MCI Center in Washington DC. They've done many jokes about it being in the Capitol. Very annoying, but it's obviously a lot of the jokes go over my head because I'm not American, and I wasn't really around then, so my politics knowledge is not good as is better now than obviously it was back then. So, but yeah, obviously it was on the 30th of April 2000, with attendance of 19,101, with obviously the legendary, as we know them all, of Jerry the King Lawler and good old JR, Jim Ross. So yeah, it's one of those pay-per-views that kind of basically, yeah, it's going to be a member for that, but it has some good matches going into it. So yeah, let's go dive straight into it. So yeah, they kicked it off with the WWF Tag Team Champions defending their titles with Edge and Christian going against D-Generation X, not Billy Gunn and Road Dogg. It is Billy Gunn's been kicked out of the group at this point. Obviously, I think he was injured, so they finally have to write him off storyline-wise at this point. But it was so random in the sense that 1 minute they liked him, and then all of a sudden he kind of stood up to like, I think, stood up to them, of like in the backstage, and then all of a sudden he just kicked him out of the group so randomly. It was weird. I wish there would have been a bit more build to it, but I guess sometimes in wrestling you just got to basically just get chucked out of the group. It was very strange. If you watch it back, it was very weird. Just all of a sudden they just turn on him, chuck him out of the dressing room, and no one saw him again. So this D-Generation X is not. Road Dogg is now got a new partner with X-Pac that's now going to be his partner. With that, to be fair, that cool kind of like rap kind of D-Generation X kind of theme that was going through most of the 2000s. I think 'cause they had it's kind of like I like with the kind of thing with WWF is that they had like, obviously they made these like rap albums or like kind of reimagine their themes and kind of like new versions of them, but they didn't just like play the CD. They actually put them out on TV, so it's like you see them with it, so you might be more inclined to buy the CD. You just wouldn't dare do that now. WWE anyway. So so obviously D-Generation X is kind of near the tail end at this point. So it was kind of, I don't know if it was like a last gasp, because obviously it's they still kind of run the company. It's kind of like the end of this kind of thing at this point. So but it's obviously it kind of started. I remember watching it back. It's like when watching it, because I watched the week to weeks with this. I watched like Raw and SmackDown going into this, so I can get a better kind of gauge what's going on. But at that time, so it's more fun and it's more interesting to talk about. But I think it started from a backstage kind of attack really, and kind of said, just like a simple, we want our titles back. That's a bit annoying, but sometimes in wrestling it doesn't have to be anything too convoluted to start feuding, so it's fine. But obviously at this point Edge and Christian was kind of, they still had the kind of, I don't know if Deborah was still kind of, because she kind of turned heel, I think WrestleMania 2000 if I remember, and she kind of like kept on the, I think was it Dudley's? No, she turned heel on the Hardys. Now I remember. So it's kind of a situation now where she kept, egging on Edge and Christian, if you know what I mean, like kind of hanging around with them, trying to help them out. But they didn't need her help. She came out here with announcing their names, like doing a special announcement type thing. She sounded like she was drunk. She didn't sound great. I think it's with Deborah. So what can you do with her? She's like, very beautiful woman, but it's like she put her on like announcing not very good. No one can beat Lillian Garcia, let's be honest. But it was very awkward. But obviously it was on these tag team matches that just like, it was fine. I mean, a lot of people kind of like enjoy these kind of openers. It was the great thing about the actually there was like a lot of stuff that was kind of good or okay was like probably was great because the fans were into anything at this point. They're like, we're talking about like, they were so into the product that, groups that wouldn't, or like kind of things that never get over in normal times, totally got over because they're just so invested in this company and so invested in this era. It's kind of, every time I keep watching these pay-per-views, I'm shocked. It's crazy. It's crazy how hot the crowd was. But obviously this match was kind of like, you wouldn't expect like high flying, kind of slow paced than it normally is. Kind of never really got going into kind of near the end, really. Obviously we had a lot of blind tags. That seems to be a theme going through the whole of this, like incompetent refereeing. So obviously we had a bit with the blind tag with the ref didn't see the tag between was it Edge tagging, was it Christian tagging Edge, and basically it was a situation where X-Pac, they took full advantage as you expect with a Bronco Buster in the corner. But Edge, obviously the funny thing about Edge and Christian, they're kind of going through like a transition from being kind of heels. They're not fully heel yet, but they're kind of getting there. So it's like a situation where like you've got two heel teams at this point. It's really weird. It's like obviously DX are heels, but they were kind of playing them up as kind of faces, I think. And then obviously Edge and Christian were kind of faces, but they were acting a bit dickish. So it's like, it's a weird setup, if you know what I mean. But it's basically both of the teams were trying to utilise the kind of ref being not seeing anything from both sides. Obviously you had the blind tag we just talked about, but then you obviously see another tag from on X-Pac, was it World Dog trying to get X-Pac, didn't see it, and you got Edge doing like a headbutt from the top rope on Road Dogg. It was kind of crazy. When you think about it, it's like, so they're both trying to out-cheat each other. But it's just kind of one of these matches that kind of just, had some cool stuff. You had like a spear from Edge and Road Dogg. We had the bit where obviously you had Tori was on the apron, kind of being there, kind of being distractions, kind of what she was. You had the bit where obviously X-Pac was punched Tori by accident by knocking her off the apron. This distraction kind of Road Dogg was kind of went for like a clothesline on Christian to the floor, kind of like that kind of stuff, and the ref was look at them. X-Pac now the X Factor for behind. You'd think that at the end of the match, but no. So it's like they're both trying to kind of out cheat each other. Utilize the both heels. They're kind of both utilizing stuff like when the referee's behind, get an advantage in any way you can. But it seems like a situation here was like Edge and Christian out fought the D-Generation X here with obviously when the ref was yelling at Road Dogg and Tori on the apron, was it Christian kind of went to go get a ring bell of all things, and then pretty much nailed him, X-Pac in the face, and basically like he was bleeding like a stuffed pig. It's like he was literally bleeding. It's like kind of like that in the Attitude Era, where it's kind of that thing where the people, not everything's got, you kind of bleed like in the big angs, but you also bleed in the sense of just in random tag team matches. That's how brutal the kind of era is. I miss that in some ways, because obviously not having blood in wrestling is, I'm not saying I want it all the time, but some matches, I think they did use it a bit too often maybe in this era, but I think it's a thing that's really lacking in wrestling, because some feuds just need it to take it to another level, to make it a bit more intense. That like some stories need that intensity. So like for example, like I don't know, like maybe a Bray Wyatt, the Fiend, Randy Orton, that might need a bit of blood, so it's a bit like really intense. But obviously hit him with the ring bell. And got the win. There was controversy as obviously Christian was not the legal man, Edge was. So the ref was just probably, the incompetence of the ref continues, where he just didn't really know what's going on. Too much, I guess, when you've got two teams trying to distract and kind of cause any advantage, you can't keep up with everything. But I guess they kind of made it a thing during the show about refs, blind tags, not seeing anything. I don't know if that was something to do with the main event. I don't know if it's just like subtling that the referees are bad. I don't know, but it kind of ended up, it was like, what, in that 9 minutes of a match? Fine. I thought it was quite good. It's nothing like, it's not going to be like the highlight reels. It's not going to be crazy. But again, like I always think that when it comes to starting off a show, you always start off with tag team divisions or your best workers. So if it wasn't this, they probably would have chose Benoit and Jericho because them two at the time were the kind of best workers. So that's what I would have gone by. But yeah, tag team titles on the line. First match, Edge and Christian. After this, it's kind of building up the kind of heel because obviously they cheated to win. So at this point, it looks like they're kind of, we haven't got to the full kind of Edge and Christian kind of, get out your flash photography, like that kind of, freeze frame, kind of what we know and love of Edge and Christian during this era yet. But we're getting there. We're slowly getting there. So I honestly, the great thing about watching this back is like, it's like seeing the development of these kind of what you remember the Attitude Era for, or the best moments of it. And this is it, like seeing the emergence of Edge and Christian could be considered one of the greatest tag teams of all time. That's amazing. When it comes to this, when it comes to DX, it kind of is like, at some point, I think after that couple of months, they kind of disbanded. Road Dogg didn't really do much. X-Pac, but basically, I think at some point had his own division, had his own team. Not a memorable team, but a team nonetheless, and kind of went his own way. But yeah, it's kind of this kind of shows the beginning of the end of the kind of DX as a faction. At this point, obviously, whether we said Billy Gunn's out for a bit, and obviously X-Pac do his thing, as I said. But yeah, I'm still trying to find the X-Pac heat, because the joke is on wrestling, it's like, oh, you don't want X-Pac heat. I don't know if that hasn't materialized yet. I don't know if it's a thing that turns up, in the summer of 2000 or like near the end, maybe when he was going round, with that. It was the X Factor. I think it was called the X Factor team. Remember? So I don't know, but it's interesting. But yeah, so obviously Edge and Christian get the win. Obviously, I think they go against the Dudleys. Or was it the Hardys? I think it was the Hardys. But yeah, again, it's like this feud for me. As I said, it's like a stopgap. Like they faced them all at WrestleMania 2000. You don't want to do face them again. Kind of get stale. So they're kind of keeping them apart for like maybe a pay-per-view or a couple of months. So it feels fresh, that I like. So it looks like obviously we're getting near this kind of summer end, and that's when it started to really heat up. No pun intended. So yeah, good. I get verdict to give it 3 out of 5. Solid match. crowd were definitely into it, nearly kind of with put Edge and Christian a bit more. But yeah, it's good. Good stuff. I liked it. I kind of it's a bit messy near the end, but it's just Edge. Basically they're both out cheating each other, and DX were on the wrong end of out cheating. So it's about time because they always cheat. So it's one of those things. But yeah, so awesome match to kick off the show. So then obviously after that we had the match that I was talking about. I've been told about for many years. And many books that I've read about wrestling. Obviously, I'm talking about Dean Malenko going against Scotty to Hotty for the WWF Light Heavyweight Championship. That Dean Malenko just won back on the SmackDown prior to the show by shenanigans. So, yeah. It was a weird thing. I think at this point, it was... can't remember who had the Light Heavyweight Championship, but obviously Dean Malenko won it. Then he kind of lost it to Scotty to Hotty, and then just won it back here, as I said. So, it was kind of... the light heavyweight division is a very interesting thing to talk about. I'll probably bring it up near the end of the kind of talking about this bit, but it was a very forgettable division, to be honest. But I got a kind of theories of why it was. But yeah, obviously one thing I just want to point out they kind of brought up, not in the match, but kind of keep forgetting, obviously, is that this was live on Channel 4 for free at 1 PM in the UK. I didn't know this because again I wasn't watching wrestling at this point. That's kind of like, again, I always turn up late to the party. And I always turn up late when it comes to watching the single most greatest eras in wrestling history, and I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what it was about at this point. Shows me, I'm always oblivious, but it's where I am. But yeah, it just boggles your mind now, especially with the Sky box office, streaming networks like WWE Network, and obviously streaming and all that. It's just the idea that you can watch Channel 4 and watch a pay-per-view like this for free is just baffling to me. It feels like a different time, a different era. I would say it's just weird. I know it's just very strange, but it's pretty cool. Obviously, the wish they had brought that back, but again, there's no money in it. And wrestling has changed when it comes to it's more global, in the sense that everything that felt so far away is now very, very connected with the internet and kind of social media and stuff. So, giving away this kind of thing for free on terrestrial TV just doesn't work anymore. Wish it did, because then I don't have to pay to watch it. That would be nice. Any free wrestling is free wrestling, eh? So it's all cool. But yeah. Again, this kind of going into this match, you kind of think, okay, the light heavyweight division wasn't exactly, the most heated or the greatest division, but again, now and then it did produce some gems when they kind of utilised what it is. That's pretty much, as we know, is like kind of the opposite of what the cruiserweight division was in WCW, that we all know was producing some of the great wrestling matches. That kind of was a good thing. One of the good things that WCW did do was the cruiserweight division. But but this is one of the I've always heard great things about this match, and it didn't disappoint. Again, it was just good pace. You had a guy, that kind of connection, and kind of like they flowed very well this match. I kind of like they're both working on the strength. Obviously, we all talk about Dean Malenko as kind of like he wasn't exactly like the most Mr. Personality, but my God, the guy was a technical genius when it comes to being in ring action. And this match, I think, typifies like kind of why he, how good he was. Because again, not everyone was watching WCW and his great feud with Chris Jericho for the cruiserweight. I mean, he was beloved in WCW, especially with I think it was Jericho against Dean Malenko kind of thing. And yeah, it was kind of that one of those things that you forget how good he was and how respected he is. Kind of Dean Malenko. He doesn't get the love he deserves. I gotta be honest. I wish he got a bit more, because obviously this match kind of proves how good he could be. If you just give him, how long to give, like 12, 13 minutes with someone that's kind of the opposite and kind of works for his style, with Scotty to Hotty. Again, we all know he's kind of more a tag wrestler, obviously too cool. But obviously at this point, obviously, we had Grandmaster Sexay taken out by the Big Show, so he's out for a couple of weeks. Storyline wise, anyway, I think it was just out for a leg injury, I think, or maybe like that. But he was out, so it was a situation where what can he do? So he went for a singles push, and gotta be honest, you forget, Pop again, same thing. I've probably said it 1,000 times for this broadcast. How popular Scotty 2 Hotty was, and how big most wrestlers are. But it's one of the things when it went wrestling. It's like technically, it worked. It's like they worked on both strengths. Dean Malenko was the kind of technical, kind of ground and pound, kind of technical submission expert Dean Malenko going against the kind of speed of Scotty to Hotty. It kind of works. It's kind of, brains versus speed kind of matchup. And it seems to be like, obviously the match was kind of Dean working on the leg. Made sense. I mean, come on. I mean, obviously if you're hitting that the worm, kind of the leg is the kind of like when he does the dance of the worm. It's kind of what his main thing, so makes sense. But I'm kind of I'm kind of talking about this and kind of not nailing how good this match is. It really is. It's got good narrative structure. It's very simple in the sense, one guy's technically gifted, working on a leg, and it's just it got better and better for the match going along. It might not be like the greatest story, but it's one of the best like heavyweight championship matches they had, and they didn't have a lot of them, sadly. But again, we're kind of going to it. We had a cool thing where, obviously, at some point, nailed a backbreaker by Dean Malenko, but Scotty with Scotty trying to fight it off. Scotty finally nailed the bulldog that leads to that huge reaction he gets from hitting the worm. I'm sure this is the first time I've seen him during these times watching this era. That this is around about the time when he was starting to do the WORM. Yeah, kind of when when he was doing the hop bit. I can't describe it. When he's hopping and he's doing the WORM, kind of like getting the crowd involved. I think that's the first time he kind of did it. I might be wrong, but yeah, it's again, that's why I said with Edge and Christian, it's like watching him back is awesome. Because it's great to see the emergences. What is so fulfilling is that where it's like this thing of wrestling where when you're going back, where they're gonna go. So it's fascinating to look back because then you can see the emergence of a star. It's like Paul Heyman once said. It's like that thing where why he kept during his era, he kind of came up with saying, these are future Hall of Famers or future champions. And apparently in like an interview, Vince was like, why are you saying that? Because in wrestling, it's like, imagine if you sit there and say a star, like a youngster, he's going to be a world champion one day. It's like you feel like honoured that you're watching this show and you're seeing the emergence of this great star from ground up working your way up. It's very fulfilling. It's the same in football sometimes, or soccer if you're American, where it's just like you see a young player that's from like 18, 19, come into the squad, do great, and then you're watching that player develop into, maybe it might turn into one of the greatest players of all time. It just turns into, it feels more like rewarding seeing that. And it's the same here, kind of watching the worm. It's like it's going to turn into this big thing in this era, and it's great to see it develop into something. It's just very fulfilling. Seriously, it really is. Definitely, if you got the network, go back and watch Raw and SmackDown from the 2000s from the beginning, and obviously definitely watch these pay-per-views because it's just so refreshing to watch this kind of emergence. You could just watch the pay-per-views, but watching the stories building up to it is so much more rewarding. I would definitely suggest it. But yeah, obviously you got the hit the worm. That was great. Also, you got the thing with the Dean Malenko trying to do the old cheating, kind of put his foot on the ropes. It's kind of, don't see that much these days. Heels don't do that as much as he should, because the refs will either become too clever or they just don't use that spot enough. But yeah, obviously the ref caught him, tried it again. We got a sweet kind of like Liger bomb. It's kind of like, I think we've seen it. If you watch enough in New Japan, you know what a Liger bomb is. But it's basically like he hooks him up in the kind of what Triple H just kind of hooks him up and then spins him round and hits him in a powerbomb position. It's freaking awesome. But I mean, if you watched, was it not this episode of Dynamite, last episode of Dynamite, I think it was Big Swole did the same thing. Like a bomb. It's such a cool move. I like it. But yeah, as I said here, kind of I bring up before, it's a perfect example when you put a great technical wrestler against a very good babyface. When it's kind of like the kind of moves when you got like holds that if you don't care is very boring, but it's obviously the fans really cared about. Kind of Scotty Hotty and really was invested in him, so it's like the comeback was very fulfilling. If you know what I mean, it's like he was a good babyface because he was entertaining as hell, and you wanted him to win. So. And obviously, he got screwed the week prior with obviously getting cheated. So, if you look at it by storyline wise, you want him to win it back. I personally did it because I like Dean. I'm a sucker for heels. I always have been when I was growing up. Everyone kept saying that, it's like they always brought up like, who's your favourite wrestler? And I think when I was at school one time during the year, it was like JBL. And I was like, JBL, and everyone looked at you. Someone looked at me and went, what? So yeah, I like heels. My favourite wrestler, one of my favourite wrestlers of all time is Edge, the single most greatest heels of all time with the ultimate opportunist. So I'm a sucker for heels, so I probably would have been Dean Malenko back in his day. Or maybe I wouldn't, I don't know. But anyway, sidetracking. But yeah, as I said before, it's kind of what I want to talk about is that kind of two things at the end of this match is really cool. Well, when I say two things, I mean one thing when it comes to the match, but two things I want to talk about. My God, I'm all over the place in this podcast. But what I mean is the kind of situation, obviously, that ending with, obviously, it's kind of remembered for this match, really, kind of, with the thing we've got Dean Malenko going from the top and kind of looked like he was going to do a suplex, but Scotty kind of trying to counter it. But then, because Malenko kind of being innovative, kind of improv, kind of turned it into a DDT from the top rope. It looks freaking awesome. I've got to be honest. It is a great finish. It's one of those things, it's one thing I appreciate more than technical wrestling kind of masterpieces in wrestling. Or like technical wrestling kind of matches that have like kind of good slow build storylines. I respect a very, very high impact, awesome finish. And this is definitely one of them. You got Dean Malenko defend his title. It's one of these rare things where the heels actually back up what they say. Scotty Hotty had his run, but obviously at this point, I think he had his time. It was just to keep him busy. And two, obviously, because then kind of Grandmaster Sexay came back from his injury. And yeah, and they kind of, he done his thing. And obviously Dean Malenko has still got the title and he do his thing. But I kind of liked it. It was kind of a story that kind of kept Scotty Hotty, proved that he's more than just a gimmick. He's pretty decent in the ring. That I kind of like. And Dean Malenko just shows how great technically gifted he is. And that finish was beautiful. I'm giving it a 3 out of 5, but I'm tempted to change it to 4. I think it's just really, really good match for members. Really good in a sense. I loved it. Again, it needs to be seen to be believed in this match. I would say go out and see this match. I remember getting 101 matches you forgot were good, or kind of a book I used to get, and it was one of the ones that become storyline. It's really good. It's one of those hidden gems in wrestling that you sometimes find if you go through an era. That's really cool. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to talk about that. Well, I kind of have talked about it, so I'm just kind of all over the place at the moment. But yeah, but the other thing I want to kind of talk about is like why, if you got one of these good matches in like heavyweight division, why wasn't it just like, why didn't it pick up? If you know what I mean, why didn't it pick up like, you know, the cruiserweight division did in WCW? It's kind of why this like heavyweight division exists. But looking back at it and kind of had a thoughts on it, I think the reason it kind of didn't work is because it kind of defeated the purpose of what WCW used it for. It was kind of, WCW kind of used it as like the high flyers, the, you know, cruiserweight level kind of thing, doing all the high flying stuff and all the kind of spectacular stuff that we all know and love. The kind of wrestlers that are in that division, obviously you said, you know, obviously Dean Malenko was in this, that's one. Obviously you had, Chris Jericho, Chris Benoit, Eddie Guerrero, all those ones, you know, all those ones in that division. They were kind of in that situation where they put them in higher up on the card. They were trying to make it a mission to use them higher up on different divisions than other than using them in what they've been using in WCW. That's why they left, because they were like just pigeonholed as cruiserweights and not really moving up the card in any way. So if you take that away, who is in this division? Obviously, Jeff Hardy wins the title at some point. Stick it in there, but again, he's a tag team wrestler. Scotty Hotty is kind of, again, another tag team wrestler. Shoehorn into a kind of division. Really have anything, really. I think Essa Rios, we'll talk about later, I think he won it at one point. But again, it's just there was no win in it. There was no division. I think Dean Malenko was probably the only one. But it's kind of sad that he didn't have anyone to really, like, you know, good feuds. It's kind of the best he ever had, sadly. But yeah, it just didn't have the personnel to make it work. You know, it's just that when they sign people from like the cruiserweight, kind of who would be cruiserweight, they kind of pushed them higher up the card. Like Jericho in the main event, Chris Benoit kind of being a Cornell, Perry Saturn, you could sit there. Perry Saturn, maybe. I don't think he was in that division, but I don't know. Maybe, but he was kind of in the hardcore ones. Like it was just a forgotten division, sadly. But I think that's why it didn't work. It just, there wasn't anyone in it. No one like really was. Might be wrong. I mean, maybe there might be some ones, but it wasn't what cruiserweights used to be, and what like heavyweight kind of thing is. It's kind of showcase the kind of different style of wrestling, but then that kind of wrestling is moving up the cards. So kind of light heavyweight championship or kind of division, it becomes obsolete. You know, it's kind of the reason why after the kind of was it the invasion, kind of like WCW alliance kind of thing, gone against WWF. Hopefully we get to that point at some point, maybe in next season or upcoming seasons maybe. But yeah, it's kind of like, that's the reason why when they done a kind of unification match, it was the Cruiserweight Championship that stuck and not like Heavyweight Championship. Because it was a shocking division. Just didn't work. There was no one in it, and it's kind of sad, but it's kind of true. So, but it might have been a great division, but this one's a hidden gem. Definitely check it out. So yes, let's get stuck in talking about other matches on the card, because I just realised we're talking half an hour into this podcast, and we've only talked about 2 matches. I mean, I'm sorry everyone, but yeah, I think I've got, the old Monty Python sketch when they keep going, get on with it. Me and Josh use that a lot, but it's very true. We can't stop talking. I know it's what a podcast is, but we could talk for nearly 2 to 3 hours about this stuff, and I hope not to do, but yeah, I've got to get on with it. So, but yeah, so obviously let's go into the next match really, where we're talking about we've got Big Boss Man going against Buchanan. Buchanan? Yes, I pronounced that right, I apologise. A lot of B's really messes me up when it comes to pronouncing. If anyone knows watching the Josh 2 Wrestling podcast, I'm not the greatest with pronouncing names. I do try, my mission in every recording I do is to pronounce them right, so hopefully I have. I'll try my best going through the pay-per-view trying to get them right. I think I've done it right so far, so give me some credit or some slack, or you can criticise me, I don't mind, but yeah, I'm trying my best, people, leave me alone. But yeah, I'm just talking nonsense now. But anyway, yes, and obviously they went against the APA. That was a feud that kind of started with basically them getting involved in the kind of, McMahon's Triple H going against like Jericho and kind of The Rock and all that, kind of getting involved in that. The kind of the Big Boss Man and kind of Buchanan was kind of starting up as the kind of like bodyguards thing. Because obviously Big Boss Man was kind of always like the kind of, I think during the corporation era, he was kind of the heavy, kind of big, Big Boss Man, gives away the name. But obviously he's got like a back, with Buchanan, kind of as the kind of story going through them. I find funny is like they're both execute prison guards, like, and they decided to join wrestling. It's like so old school. Now it would just be like, well, they're teaming together. But then back then they had this thing like they're both prison guards, and they've decided to come to professional wrestling. It's like, I love that. No one cared about the Big Boss Man and Buchanan. I mean, no offense, they were just kind of cliche kind of bad guys, big, cheated, 2-on-1, went around with the kind of batons you kind of have for kind of Big Boss Man and kind of like cheating, all that kind of stuff. But it kind of works because they were kind of good foil for someone like the team they're going against here, the APA. That obviously at this point they've kind of, this is quite early on, the APA. As I said, probably in the last episode, it's like early on. They've just kind of formed. Kind of a thing that I kind of like about the APA is like, I think I probably said it before, but I'll say it again. What I love about it is like the APA concept is such a perfect storyline star when you think about it. Think about it, because it's like, how did they get involved in this? How they got this match started? It's like, how did they get involved? Well, because Chris Jericho hired them. So how did they get involved in the kind of the Hardy Boys or the kind of Dudley Boys feud? Because the Dudleys hired them. That's the whole stick. Is no, they're basically a business, and the reason they get involved is because they got hired. It's perfect. It doesn't. The good thing is it's the perfect storyline. It doesn't have to have any weird backstory. You can kind of get it because it's like the whole gimmick is basically their high security. So if someone's example, if they went against here, they kind of got involved, they got viewed because someone hired them and someone didn't like that they got involved in their business. It's simple storytelling, and it worked. And in some ways it kind of worked because everyone loved the APA, but we still haven't got to the point. They don't call him the APA now. At this time, we're still calling him the Acolytes. So we're still early on in the kind of run. Again, with the same with the other two, it's like the emergence of how awesome the APA is. We still haven't done we haven't got to the bit where we got the backstage stuff yet with the door and all that. So I look forward to watching that, but we're not here yet. But yeah, this is kind of how this feud started. I never bring up in the last 3, but I kind of wanted to mention it now. I had, just to be sure, is what a shocker that obviously Teddy Long is the ref of this tag team match. I find it hilarious because it's like, we all know Teddy Long, if you know, is a GM of SmackDown's like he loves his tag team matches, player. He loves his tag team matches, so I just find it ironic that he seems to be put in tag team matches as ref. So I just find that funny. Hopefully you do too. But yeah, obviously cool. Again, it's not exactly like amazing match. in a sense. You've got basically 4 big guys going against each other. We got again Bull Buchanan, if I pronounce that again right. Again, other matches he shows he's got the kind of stuff he can do, like I think that jump from the straight to the top rope and then kind of do a kind of cross body that's kind of cool. I think it might be WrestleMania 2000 or might be another one, I can't remember, where kind of was that he kind of done it and he completely botched it. But when it works, it looks quite good. I mean, he's kind of good. He's got a big boot. He's got good educated feet. He can do one or two cool little, oh my god, how can a guy of his size kind of do that? Obviously now you've got people in real life like, Brian Cage that can do all kinds of stuff in this era. So when it comes to wrestling today, but it's big back then. So but yeah, it's just basically a basic match of just beating the living hell out of each other. Again, it was short. They give it 7-8 minutes. It wasn't. I mean, it's one of those matches. Every match is not going to be like a 5-star, but it has its purpose. Obviously, the crowd were kind of into it, because of everyone loves the APA. So, but yeah, obviously it was a very clunky match. Again, another blind tag situation where kind of was it Bradshaw got the tag, but the ref didn't see it, and then obviously the crowd said wasn't winning into this match at all, as I said, and kind of like the Big Boss Man and Buchanan just doing the heel thing and beating down. That's twice. 2 tag team matches and we had 2 blind tags. To do it once, but to do the same spot is kind of frustrating in some ways because, again, I think they brought it up, so I think it was supposed to be a storyline decision to kind of prove the incompetence of refs, to kind of big up the kind of main event maybe. But again, I might be looking into it too much, but I guess that's the whole point of this podcast. So, yeah, obviously we had this cool thing with Bull nailed like a suplex at the top, and kind of Bradshaw hit a clothesline from hell on kind of like Buchanan, kind of like really cool because I love that clothesline from hell. But obviously Big Boss Man saved. But yeah, again, this kind of match ended. It's very what kind of frustrates me with the kind of tag team matches in this, in some ways, is that they both end with the kind of crap ref not seeing what's going on and kind of ref, the heel or whoever's like hit a weapon from behind and gets the win. It's kind of, when you think about it, you look back at the first match, it's pretty much the same thing. Blind tags, no one's seeing anything. Chaos going on. When the referee isn't seeing it, the bad or whoever's, gets a weapon, nails someone, the ref didn't see it, gets the pin, gets the win. It's one of those things, but again, it's like, it doesn't hurt anyone, it's the APA. They can take losses, but they still look badass while they're doing it, so it's pretty cool. Big Boss Man and Buchanan doesn't really work for me. It's one of these things that are just good guys you can put against, like, the popular teams. And they can do a competent job, but you kind of didn't want them to. They're never going to amount to anything major or like be the hottest act in Attitude Era. But that's fine. It's like not everything can be like a Stone Cold Steve Austin on the Rock, or like like the little like Hardys or the Dudleys or anything like that. It's just, it can't be done. But yeah, obviously what I'm talking about is obviously a Big Boss Man nailed Farouk with the nightstick. And then he nailed Bradshaw with the nightstick as well. So the ref was kind of looking at Buchanan for some reason, no one knows why. Yep, and obviously then the kind of Buchanan kind of hit that really cool scissors kick, and it's a really cool move. And yeah, from the top, that kind of like I like them big moves when they do that. And yeah, got the pin, got the win. Again, they didn't give this match enough time, wasn't as important. 7 minutes, fine match. Bit clunky, nothing to talk about. Heels get the win by cheating. End of match, really? Yeah, it's one of those few where it just didn't go anywhere. But it's fine. As again, these are kind of bridge at this point. The APA are the APA. But I can't remember top end if they were in that kind of, was it, when we're talking about the kind of pay-per-views going on. I think it was called Insurrection. Looks like it was the APA. It kind of a situation. It was more of a Road Dogg. Maybe there was like a DX kind of APA kind of feud going on. That makes sense near the end of it. So looks like that's what they were doing. But obviously we had Buchanan went against Kane Insurrection, and obviously Bradshaw went against Road Dogg. So maybe it's like that their feud is going that way and kind of the other way. But again, it's one of these things that's not up top there when it comes to feuding. Again, but I'm kind of rambling on about something, but it's not. It's fine. I'm not negative. It's like it was still competent. It's just one of those matches that, like, some matches you just give them just 5 or 10 minutes and just let them do the thing again and then get over with. Not everything's going to be great. So, but yeah, it's probably like the worst, probably like least favourite match so far. But where it is on the card, it's fine. So, yeah. So, Big Boss Man and Buchanan, you know, at some point we all know they're going to go and join. I can't wait to find out how the formation of the Right to Censor, especially when you look at the stuff they're kind of getting booed for. I can't wait for that to kind of form in the late 2000s. And I can't wait to kind of find out, like, the stuff they're complaining about is what we all, and getting booed for, is what kind of is the acceptable norm. It's a weird feel. I look forward to talking about it a bit more, but let's be honest, what I'm saying is the stuff they were complaining about, like Ivory and all that, they're right. They're 100% right. It's pretty much where wrestling has changed now. So, it's weird, but that's kind of what I'm waiting for Buchanan, because I didn't know he was in this kind of feud. So that's why I'm waiting for him, and obviously the Big Boss Man is just being the Big Boss Man, being around for the sake of being around. But yeah, I give it like a 2 out of 5. Fine match. Done its thing. That's cool. All good. So yeah, so after that we obviously had the a 6-man hardcore match for the WWF Hardcore Championship, with obviously the Crash Holly, the champion, as pretty much you defined this era of hardcore wrestling. In there was like, he's the guy you remember going against his cousin Hardcore Holly. Matt and Jeff are in this match, and Perry Saturn and Taz, all vying to become the WWF Hardcore Champion. But yeah, obviously this is kind of a follow-up to the kind of train wreck they had with that kind of, I kind of know what it was, like a battle royal. I can't remember now, the 2001, where it was just so bad. It was so, like, I think it was like a oh, now I remember, it's like hardcore like kind of challenge kind of thing, where everyone was multiple. You get a pin, you become champion. You pin him, you get champions. Like multiple hardcore champions. It was so many. It was just all over the place. It was like so many like people hitting stuff. It was far too long, and they put a time limit on it, so it kind of ruined it for me. But yeah, it was kind of one of those matches that didn't really. Let's be honest, it got very boring very quickly. So to try and solve that remedy, they took the time out, but they still had multiple people involved. So, and to be fair, it didn't exactly produce a better outcome when it comes to hardcore matches. Again, it was one of those feuds. It's one of those things for Hardcore Championship. What works for it is 2 one-on-one individual matches of just 2 people getting weapons and being living crap at each other, and the kind of 24/7 rule that Crash came up with, where he can beat the kind of segments where he's out in every day, and someone trying to pin him when he's in his hotel room. Was it some clowns when he was at the circus? You know, that's what made it cool, and made it kind of what everyone remembers, and not like putting like this kind of stuff like multi-man like kind of hardcore matches just doesn't work for me, and it never did, and I don't think it ever will. You know, it just didn't really work. But I mean, it could have these moments, but yeah, this kind of match had a situation where, again, the 27 rule was in effect, but the match kind of ended with they had to pin Crash. It wasn't a situation you had to pin anyone in the match. You had to pin the champion. So basically, the whole match was basically everyone trying to beat the living hell out of Crash Holly. I think it's just basically the match in general, really. It's basically you got Crash running away to the arena, kind of going, sitting there trying to get away. Obviously, we keep I've got to bring up, obviously, because obviously so many stuff going on in general with the show. It's like we had was it the famous Backlash kind of swinging kind of hooks that we all know and love, were back in the day when WWF actually put the time and effort to make their kind of Titantrons and kind of stages uniquely different in every pay-per-view, that we just don't get in wrestling anymore. That's kind of sad. I think maybe this year's not really fair, but I just wish that they kind of put a bit more attention to detail in kind of stages. Some of the best stages have been during this era. Obviously, you had the SmackDown kind of fist going through glass. That's great. I think that was obviously you got this Backlash one. You had I think the Armageddon one was good. Off the top of my head, but they just don't do them like that anymore. I just love it. They put a little bit of effort just to make it a little bit more interesting. They just don't put that attention to detail anymore, and it kind of sucks. But yeah, obviously kind of Crash, I mean, he's trying to run away, and basically had this cool thing where Matt went on top of that, swinging and kind of jumped, kind of a leg drop from 15 feet that looked awesome. You had kind of basically Perry was it Perry Saturn trying to hit like he done this thing where he broke part of the set. It's kind of like it's kind of funny, where it's kind of like a back suplex, and it kind of broke the side of the kind of swinging hooks. It kind of funny, but kind of didn't bring up. But it's cool stuff. But it wouldn't be a match without some sort of craziness from Jeff. He done this really sweet Hamakurawa on Perry Saturn on the in the entranceway. That was again always cool. It's always good to see him do crazy stuff. It's kind of the good thing about hardcore matches is it's Jeff's bread and butter. And to this day, he still does crazy stuff, and ladder matches, all the stuff that involves crazy spots. He's the perfect man for it. The reason it's kind of in this kind of matches, the only problem why it didn't work, why it was hard to watch at times, because it's basically like you got 6 men going against one guy, and you can only take so much kind of someone getting hit in head with a trash can or a bacon tray or a stop sign, and where it just gets kind of boring. I know it's hard to say, but the idea is less is more. But basically, the whole match was just basically them trying to, Taz trying to basically, not Taz, but I mean Crash basically was trying to escape. So they got 5 men trying to pin him basically, 5-on-1. But yeah, it did have its good moments. You had kind of Taz trying to choke Matt with the extension cord that now you would get fired for. We all know the famous Danny Bryan many years ago. So it's crazy to see someone getting choked. Different era. We had a good springboard moonsault by Jeff as well. It was awesome. But yeah, like Crash, like the stuff they were doing to him, mate. The guy should be dead. I mean, come on. I mean, the crazy stuff, But like simple things like you got his own cousin giving him a sit-out suplex onto a chair. I mean, come on, man. It's your cousin. Crash Holly is basically one of the... It's one of those hidden... I keep talking about last... kind of like the hidden gems with like heavyweight championship. Like Crash Holly is that. He was kind of like that kind of... It was just basically a small guy that's kind of smaller than most, but really, he's got a lot of heart, and he just wanted to prove how tough he is. And this is kind of feud that made him. It's like the guy who got beat the crap out of, like a lot. Kind of punishment this guy got was harsh. We got like a ladder pop, because obviously I think Matt and Jeff went for a ladder. That's obviously we still haven't got to the point where they have kind of proved that they're the masters of the ladder. So again, we're teasing that up to that amazing TLC match we're going to get later in this 2000. Again, I can't wait to go and watch at some point. I can't wait to get on this podcast. It's going to be great to talk about it. But that's not there yet, so not get carried away there. We obviously got a nice pop. The Hardy's kind of whipping the hardcore into the ladder, into the corner. It was pretty cool. A lot of we had a nice little like tag team from Matt and Jeff, where Matt was hitting a kind of twist of fate on Crash, and then Jeff hit the Swanton. And then it was kind of as you expect when it's every man for yourself. Both of the brothers are kind of turning on each other, trying to pin him, but they don't know what's really, it's like kind of arguing. It's like, oh no, I should win. No, you should win. But yeah, obviously, and then obviously when you think everyone's fine, you forget about Taz. We got Crash getting the Taz mission on him, but Perry Saturn like kind of stopped him with ironically a stop sign, slap bang on his head. As you can probably put out, he was not. We'll talk about proper. He was out of it. I mean, the kind of like it's basically a straight to the head. You can see it in his eyes. He is rolling his eyes out. Yeah, obviously Matt and Jeff kind of went diving off the turnbuckle to kind of eliminate Taz and Holly from to the floor. They're doing their thing. Obviously, Taz is he's pretty much like, probably a good thing he got him out because he was out of it at this point. But then kind of like Crash rolled over, put his arm on Taz, like kind of Taz is back in the ring, and kind of, basically got away with it, put his arm, got the 1, 2, 3, and Crash Holly escaped yet again. I think he ran out the ring, and basically that was it. Yeah, well, they gave this match only 12 minutes, not 20. I think they gave it 20 or like 15 minutes, a bit less, but it was a bit better than the match at WrestleMania 2000. Obviously, at this point, luckily this time didn't have a botch like they did last time, with the kind of bit where kind of we know no Hardcore Holly was not supposed to win that match at WrestleMania 2000. Supposed to be Crash, but they made it up the week later. But there's none of that in this. It was kind of the whole point was through this like kind of run last couple of pay-per-views. He's supposed to be just a guy. He's escaping. He's still winning, finding ways to win. If it involves just cheating, it involves kind of just like being in the right place at the right time. It's supposed to be this thing. But it kind of works because Crash is so likable. He's so likable as a person and as a character that, yeah, he could have been like the heel, but you wanted him to win. So, especially with his cousin being so cruel to him. But, yeah, so take away that. It's just, it was fine. I'm not going to crap it too much. If you like it's kind of, if you like kindness matches, you'll love this. I personally, I could watch, again, it's one thing I could do watch it. Come on. Everyone likes someone getting smashed in the face, high spot from a ladder, crazy spots. I like that kind of stuff. I think they did tone it down after it a bit than they did at kind of WrestleMania 2000, where it kind of just felt like, come on, like none of them. It doesn't even get the shock. It doesn't even get the oh my god shock factor anymore. But yeah, I mean it was better and obviously better finish. But yeah, I hope Taz was okay with this, because again that stop sign to the face was like, damn, he is out of it. But it's still cool. It's still a good match in some ways. But yeah, I give 2.5 probably for the fact that Crash won, and obviously there were good moments in it. Jeff being Jeff, Matt being Matt. Crazy when you've got them two in there, you're always going to get some cool spots. So yeah, just better people in the match. And as I said, kind of this one of a situation where it kind of was, it gave the Hardys something to do. Perry Saturn was always been chasing the title for a while. Taz has been in that division ever since the kind of, after his kind of debut against Kurt Angle in January, kind of just been around. Kind of, he had that great match, and then they stuck him in this. Yeah, and obviously the cousins with Hardcore Holly. I think after the Intercontinental feud, he kind of went into this. But I kind of like the dynamic being Hardcore and kind of Crash, kind of Holly. It's kind of cool. So I don't know if I can't remember if they ever won the tag titles or had the one with the titles. Don't think they did, but if they, it's kind of a missed opportunity, because it would have been fun if they didn't. I might have to look it up. But yeah, so yeah, 2.5, good match. I enjoyed it to a point, but again, I think I'm kind of glad from seeing other results from pay-per-views. They kind of decided that single matches for the Hardcore Championships are I think the best thing to do and the way to go. And after that, kind of the matches became fun to watch. But yeah, these kind of experiment when they kept multi-man kind of hardcore matches just showed that it didn't work. But I give them credit, they understood it didn't work and changed it up basically. And yeah, good for them. But yeah, it was not great. It wasn't that spectacular, but it was still fun to watch. So it was one thing none of these matches is that you're not watching them going, why do these suck? They're not exactly amazing, but they've done their job. So you give them credit for that. So yes, let's get back into talking about another match that again was very short. I mean, probably the shortest of the night. What obviously I've talked about was the Big Show and Kurt Angle. Very weird, because obviously at this point it kind of all started with kind of Big Show being that kind of, ever since he kind of like they built him up to WrestleMania 2000 as just like with Shane as this like monster, and then he just gets eliminated in the first rounds of the main event, and then he comes back and kind of is like he wants to become a star. And then for the majority of the kind of couple of weeks, he's dressing up as people. I think he dressed up as kind of the guy from Fat Bastard from the Austin Powers films. I think he dressed up as Too Cool at some point. He just basically was trying to be kind of like funny, because I think at this point I think he'd done a SNL sketch and he was kind of funny. So they're kind of capitalizing on that this guy's more than just a monster, where it's like he wants to have fun, but if you piss him off, he's the big show that, monster that we all know and love. So that was the kind of thing. Going through that, and obviously Kurt Angle was still kind of reeling from his loss of both his Intercontinental and European Championship European titles. So he was kind of basically rekindle gold, right? And basically the whole thing was he was trying to obviously he's got the Olympic gold medals, but he wanted gold back, and he was going through title matches. Triple H and Shane were kind of like, we'll put you against Edge and Christian, but your tag team partner is the Big Show. And he was like, yeah, we're going to win titles. But again, we had the Big Show trying to have a laugh. Because of that, they lost. Kurt Angle was not happy, and basically that started a feud kind of started a feud with them two. We got Kurt Angle trying to talk about, talking about, like the Big Show being a waste of talent, that kind of stuff. Basically being what Kurt Angle we all love him for. Being the basic guy that's given him a mic and he's very good at just doing the simple things in wrestling, of pissing people off. And at this point he was still undefeated if you don't count the kind of choke of Taz that they don't. That's kind of sad, because you did lose to Taz, but, record books don't show it, so it's one of those things. But yeah, Kurt Angle was just like, he was building up they're building up quite nicely at this point. But yeah, he was still undefeated, and obviously against the Big Show. Obviously Kurt Angle being Kurt Angle, then obviously who came out? You had the Big Show, but he's dressed up as Hulk Hogan. Hulking up, all that kind of stuff, At some point out, I think of a review I said, it's kind of true, they kind of stopped doing these kind of big shots at WCW, because obviously Hogan was still at WCW at this point. But it kind of works because obviously it's the Big Show, it's kind of worth his gimmick he's doing. But I think it's like they never used to do a lot of these at this point, but at this point in 2000, WCW was on its knees. So don't think they were making that much of a challenge anyway. So it would be different if they're doing it in 98 or 97. It'd be like, oh, come on, man. But at this point, it was just like, WCW would like, obviously as we know, hindsight's a beautiful thing. We'll go out of business probably like 12 months to maybe like nearly a year later. So I don't think this really would have hurt them and pissed them off. They had their own problems. But yeah. It was basically, I was surprised how short this match was. I'm just saying, it's just like you had Angle doing the punches on kind of Big Show, but he's proper selling it like, hulking up with the whole thing where he hits him and it doesn't affect him. And then he done the whole, he does the punches, the big boot, the leg drop. He got the kind of annoying that he obviously done the leg drop and he would get the win, but I guess that was supposed to be the burial of Hulk Hogan, but maybe that's just me. But yeah, but Angle did get some momentum. He started he started to work on the kind of the left knee of the Big Show. Obviously, the fans were chanting Hogan. It's kind of funny is that the kind of reaction they wanted, especially when he's not in the company anymore. But yeah, kind of tucking on the left leg of the Big Show. But then basically, Big Show kind of lost it. Basically, like I said, okay, funny games are over. Started basically, he ripped off the kind of hair and the belt and the wrist, and basically just hits. Basically went for Angle. Angle hits the huge. The way he lifted him up is amazing. The Big Show lifted him up, hit the choke slam to get the win in, as you said, nearly 2 to 3 minute match. Surprised how short this match was. I guess it was one of the situations with the kind of gimmick with the Big Show being this comedy wrestler. They thought it was just one and done. Obviously, this is Kurt Angle's first loss, but I think normally we'd be like, oh, he lost in such a ridiculous fashion. But I think it's Kurt Angle was a kind of over the top ridiculous character that kind of matched it because he was so good in the ring. So it's fine. I mean, obviously I think it doesn't. I can understand if it annoyed you back then, but obviously hindsight's a beautiful thing. So we know where Kurt Angle's going by the end of this year. So I don't think he's going to be hurt by this, of course, but. Yeah, I mean, the question obviously this match is like, again, the Big Show, man. I mean, the guy's very entertaining, but for me it felt like he went down a card at this point. I mean, we're talking about a man that was main event of a WrestleMania, and now he's doing comedy sketches, I think it's always been a question with Big Show, like, what is he? Like, he should be like more respected and more high on the card than he did. This didn't really go anywhere. It's kind of sucky. It kind of sucks, but it's one of those things, but again, Big Show was still quite cool. But when it comes to like the matchup, it was short. It was fine. I give it a 1 out of 5. It's not really anything we talk about. It's just if you find out Hogan stuff, it's kind of funny. It's Hogan. Everyone's parodied Hogan to death at this point, but at that point it wasn't. So a Big Show has always made it work. So it's kind of funny, but I'm hoping. I don't know. Actually, I don't 100% sure where it goes. I guess I'm just hoping this is it. And it's like, I had a fun, but then Big Show goes back to the Big Show that we know and love. But again, I'll look into it. But again, terrible for a review. Right? Well, we're talking about the past. You don't know what's going on. It's like, I think I like the kind of shock factor of it, like watching it step by step, as you would anyway, because I kind of get that reaction. So I'm going in not knowing what's happening next, because I didn't watch this era. So that's the fun of it, I find, with this podcast. And hope you enjoy it. If you don't, let me know. I'll try and be a bit more factual. I'll try my best, but yeah, I think at this point, I think it might have been around about the time, it must be around about the time where it's starting to have feuds with Benoit. I think he's gone back into I think he took a back seat and now he's gone back into the kind of feud with, Benoit, Jericho, all that kind of stuff. That kind of, again, it's like, three of the best. I mean, if I think Benoit, Kurt Angle and Benoit, I mean, this Attitude Era, as well as, the great feud they had during kind of the early days of the Paul Heyman kind of SmackDown 6. I mean, them two can go. It's still quite sad what we're talking about Benoit, but yeah. But yeah, at this point, Kurt Angle is on to better things, so it's fine. A Big Show, hopefully we do some cool stuff. So, but actually, before we do that, let's take a nice little break. Just a refresher, because I think we've been talking for nearly an hour now, and just a little break, just so we can chill out. When we come back, we'll be talking about TNA, Albert and Tess with Trish Stratus going against the Dudley Boyz. Then we'll, as well as Eddie Guerrero versus Essa Rios for the WWF European Championship. Then we go obviously to come back. We've got Benoit and Chris Jericho, and as well as we've got the main event between the Rock and Triple H for WWF Championship. So that should be fun. So yeah, we'll take a little break and we'll be back in a sec. Yeah. So see you in a bit. So I'm back. Just a little bit of a respite, because obviously I just realised when I do these things, I kind of realised that I kind of basically 2.5 hours or an hour just basically talking. So it's always good to get a breather. In real life, this just was a pub chat. I probably would have got a pint by now after this chat. So it's kind of what it is, just chill out. So yeah, we're back. So that's kind of we looked at part 1. So let's go and finish off talking about this. Backlash 2000. It's been a pretty decent pay-per-view at this point when you think about it, but but then it's kind of the good stuff. Kind of you had the two little kind of not great matches, but now at this point we're getting to the good stuff. So but as I said before, obviously now we're going to talk about TNA. Obviously Albert and Tess with Trish Stratus as the kind of valet kind of manager going against the Dudley Boyz in a very strange feud. Basically, at this point, it was getting to obviously we know when you think of the Dudleys, we always think of tables. So this was kind of what the kind of we start is again. It's same as the others. It's a great emergence of what these great things we think about the Attitude Era, kind of what started it, and this was definitely one of it. Obviously with the tables. Obviously the sad, messed up way is basically the Dudleys got famous by putting women through tables. Obviously Mae Young. But I think, who was it? Who else? Mae Young, like twice, I think it was. I think it was Tori, or I think put for the table at some point. Or Terry, I think it was, or put for the table a couple of times. And obviously at this pace, it all set up. Basically, the Dudleys were going to put Trish Stratus through a table. Didn't work. With basically, then that started the feud with TNA. And very dangerous. Obviously, it seems like what we all know when Bubba puts someone through a table, it's like an orgasmic feeling for him. He loves it. But he was about to do it, and obviously Trish Stratus, I think it was like kissed him, and basically he got entranced by her. He's basically like he's more shocked than anything else. And basically the whole feud was basically Trish Stratus trying to play mind games with him. He had these weird kind of sexual kind of segments where she had a bit where she's got all these tables and she's going, oh, I like, round tables, I like long tables, I like, it's like, like trying to really mess with Bubba Ray. That is very dangerous because the guy likes putting people through tables and you're trying to mess with him psychologically, like that kind of thing. So very dangerous. So the funny thing about this match is, as I said, it's like you're waiting for that moment where you're watching this match and you're like, okay, so the whole thing they're setting up is basically, is Bubba going to put Trish Stratus through a table? And that is that match, pretty much. It's basically waiting for that moment where you're waiting for that moment where it might be after the match, or maybe she'll get her comeuppance during the match, because obviously it's not a tables match. So waiting for that moment. But yeah, so obviously we had that nice line by totally actually there when he got, was it Bubba Ray kind of hit Albert with a clothesline and yelled at Trish saying, I'm going to get you, you little bitch. It's like, it's like, yeah, she's going through a table. Yeah, we had this nice little kind of spot where kind of where I think Albert slam test. Or was it slam test onto the Devon? That's kind of cool. It's kind of random, but it's just like the idea of like them double team moves you don't really do with people of those kind of sizes. So that was kind of cool. But but when it comes to matches, like when it comes to takeaway, the feud was against Bubba Ray and Trish Stratus. Like, but the kind of everybody else in between, it kind of felt the match felt flat in some ways. But it was one of those things. It's like you'll get through the match to get to the thing you want. So it was one of those things that were fine. Yeah, it was a bit longer than I would have expected. It was how long did they give this match? They gave it 11 minutes when probably would have gave it a bit less time. It was never like 8 to 7 minutes match. Wasn't that? It was like the other tag team match. It was fine. It was good. Again, another botch tag when he got Bubba trying to tag Devon, but the ref missed it again. Again, to do that spot once, but twice, but 3 times in the pay-per-view, it's very repetitive at this point, and kind of tiresome, but, it's guessing when you got hindsight in yourself. But yeah, the match was a bit too long. Kind of ended with, obviously, Bubba got the hot tag against Tess, then a Samoan drop for a 2. You had, obviously, Devon kind of sent Tess on the outside, a double team net breaker by the Dudleys. Basically, or JR thought it was 3D, but it wasn't. It ended with the TNA basically getting the win. That's kind of surprising. Obviously, we had basically the match ended with you got the Dudleys wanted to hit the 3D, but then, as always, when Bubba was supposed to hit the 3D, Trish Stratus was using her womanly ways. It's weird, but obviously it's a bit weird back then. But to try and distract Bubba. Obviously, the Devon was not happy by this, and basically it's like she got distracted by him. But yeah, it basically ended with Tess hitting like a big boot to knock down, was it Bubba? And basically, Tess basically covered him, was enough to get the win. Nothing crazy, nothing special. Kind of like that about it actually. There were sometimes where it's kind of like the matches. It doesn't end with big moves. Sometimes it ends with a big boot or like just a power slam or something. Minute that just gets the win, like the shock factor that kind of like at some point, because it kind of puts the unpredictability that a match can just end just like that, like it just ends. But yeah, obviously, so it makes sense when the heel team gets the win, or look at the team you expect to be heel, but then you're thinking, okay, it's the end of the match, but like, nope, we have a post match where basically Bubba nails a net breaker on Tess. Then they basically go after Twist, like basically took out both of the tag team, and then the Bubba Way's like, I'm going to get you. Could obviously go for Trish. Then the Dudleys hit the 3D on Albert, so he's out, so she's all alone. And then Bubba grabs her hair, and then they go, and then basically Trish tries to kiss him, but he shakes it off. He's like, no, not this time, you're going through a table. Grabs her hair again. Got Devon going to get the table, sets it up, goes to the top, sets her up on the powerbomb, and then boom, hits the powerbomb through the table. The crowd love it because, be honest, everyone loves seeing someone going through a table, and also we're quite messed up wrestling fans when, especially it's a woman going through a table. But a different era, different time, never judge an era to a point on what kind of stuff they did. They were a product of their time, but yeah, but it's one of these golden rules in wrestling. Sometimes just give the people what they want. And people wanted to see Trish Stratus go through the table. And they're going to be honest, give them credit. They built it up quite nicely. It's like every week you thought, is this going to be the week? Is she going to go for the table? Is she going to go for it? Is she going to go for that table? And she found a way of either distracting Bubba while like kissing him, trying to use the old womanly ways, or like her tag team was able to get her out of there. But this time she finally got it's a thing that I like. Just why it works, because it's like it had a payoff. Some people would have teased this out way longer than it should have. But there was a couple of weeks where she couldn't get it, and then when the pay-per-view, she got what she coming to her, and she went for the table. Got the win. And that was it. And then obviously we got the usual stuff. We put her on a stretcher, put her back. Is she okay? We obviously knew she was, but they kind of bigged it up. I kind of like that kind of seriousness they sometimes do. That it's kind of missed WWE in wrestling in general sometimes. But that's the way it is. But yeah, it did that. But again, when it comes to the match, it was fine. Again, it was more of a solid, consistent, pretty much the kind of seems about the same stuff. Blind tags, basically distraction got the win for the TNA. But yeah, I don't think the fans were too bothered because they got what they wanted. They wanted Trish going through a table, and she did. And everyone's happy, except for Trish and the TNA and pretty much anyone. But yeah, they got what they wanted. But yeah, again with the Dudleys, it's kind of like it was a gap feud. Kind of, like they just had that. They had the feud that we all know they have with with Matt and Jeff, and the kind of Edge and Christian. So it's like, now what do we do now? Because we put them in the feud with them. So like keep them separate and put them against TNA. Not an amazing team, but competent, quite entertaining. With Trish Stratus, let's be honest, is basically reason people kind of remember, because let's be honest, they kind of were putting up a sex appeal, and the old saying, sex sells. So, but yeah, obviously this is not the Trish Stratus we know and love, where she turned into this amazing kind of wrestler of her era. We're talking about big boobs, big ass, walking around showing that off basically. Luckily she went above that and kind of became known for her wedding ability and less about her looks. That's kind of nice, but it's the way it was back then. It's fine. It's not fine, but it's the way it was, so never judge. But yeah, so everyone at the time went on happy. Well, in this case, was pretty happy that you saw they built up something and they paid it off. And yeah, and yet again, it just shows how another example of an emergence of what made a great staple of the Attitude Era great. It's everyone the Dudleys just kind of messed up. It said it got famous by putting people through tables, and everyone loves seeing people going through tables. So it just made sense. It was really cool. It's like they were setting up. I don't know if they even knew it, where they were setting up kind of these teams that got a specialist, and eventually it built up to the great TLC. I think it's SummerSlam 2000. Might be wrong. I think it was. Yeah. So I look forward to. Obviously, we've got a couple of episodes until we get to that. Can't wait for that. But yeah. So, but I just like the kind of build up of it all. Just it feels like so little things that build up to great payoffs, and kind of I like feuds or stuff where you can find the origins of where things start, where slow build. I think that's what made this kind of era 2000 at least great writing. It's you can have a feud in December, and you can trace it all the way back from January. It's just a very long-term, year-long kind of arc that I kind of like, but maybe I'm just being nostalgia, but nostalgia's a powerful thing. But yeah, so everyone was happy. So yeah, so I'm going to give it probably 2.5, but if you bump up the kind of post-match, it's a 3.5 by far, maybe 4. If you I might put 4.5, just because everyone got what they wanted. So happy days. Maybe not for Trish, but anyway. Nice little thing here with the kind of thing where obviously when Trish was gone through the ambulance, or going on the ambulance, she had a nice little thing with Eddie Guerrero coming back. Obviously he's just come back from his prom, because obviously the whole thing here is a situation where he was basically taking his GETs, or I think that's their American's version of high school, going back to pass his test. So he did that, and obviously he's taken and he's gone to the prom, obviously now girlfriend of China, that obviously we probably didn't bring up that obviously she turned on Chris Jericho and joined Eddie Guerrero. Eddie Guerrero was kind of trying to put his advances on her leading up to the WrestleMania 2000. It didn't work then, didn't put it off, pulled the trigger then, but they did put it up the night after. So Eddie Guerrero and China were together as kind of this couple, and the whole thing is basically she's helping him win all the time. It's kind of it's always him, he defends his title that way. That's kind of good, because it puts over China as doing something interesting, and Eddie Guerrero keeps racking up the wins, and there's not the Eddie Guerrero we know and love yet, but he still has the kind of snippets of why he's a very entertaining character. But yeah, and the kind of situation, yeah, so it was helping him out with the European Championship. European title, as you say. It feels weird when you say European Championship. It sounds very football related. Anyway, I'm talking nonsense. But yeah. So obviously he had that. It came from his prom, and obviously and it's kind of a situation where kind of out of nowhere stuff is yeah, Eddie, you got a match now. You need to get changed. So I like the way drive the car into the arena and kind of get changed there and then. So it's it's funny that he's wrestling, and he's always take his top off and all that, but he's still wrestling, and he's kind of tux. That's kind of yeah, he was so enthralled, he forgot he's got a match next. But yeah, and obviously when it comes to the kind of situation with the kind of match in general, why he's facing Essa Rios, it's kind of a situation where obviously Essa Rios Obviously was kind of tagging with Eddie Guerrero. Obviously with Lita was with Essa Rios at this point, before she joined Team Extreme. But it's basically a situation of during a tag team match, I think Lita kind of like trying to hit her kind of like the moonsault thing she did, but obviously miscommunication, kind of hit the one person and basically cost them a match. And basically the whole feud is basically built around the idea of obviously Lita and Chyna not getting along, and obviously because Essa Rios and Eddie Guerrero, that kind of stuff, they got involved, type of thing. I'm probably paraphrasing that terribly. But yeah, basically it's like a miscommunication match with kind of Lita hitting Eddie Guerrero by mistake in a tag team match, basically. It was one of these things when watching this match kind of reminded me, it's like how good Essa Rios is. He's kind of forgotten about, really, in the sense that, one, I don't know, after this actually, didn't we do much? That I know of anyway. It's like, I don't know what he did. But, I mean, the guy was basically like a amazing high flyer, the kind of stuff he could do. I think I remember when I used to play the old SmackDown 2 kind of Know Your Role kind of game. I remember love playing as him because the kind of stuff you can do, or always going against him when I've done storyline feud, when I was on like Heat or something. I think I remember that well. But yeah, I mean, you forget how good Essa Rios was. How good he was. And I think this match, it was a slow burn, but it got there in the end. As I said, the crowd, the crowd wasn't into it, but it's kind of a story of how it kind of worked today. It's like they weren't 100% into it, but it's like they got into it with get a good spot or kind of thing that got the crowd in. You just need that kind of enthusiasm. But it's a slow burn. But yeah, obviously we had Chyna getting involved, hitting a full-arm uppercut on Rios to sort of like help her boyfriend kind of situation, kind of story we're going for. Obviously we had nice exchanges of holds with Rios nailing like a monkey flip to send Rios into the ropes. The way Eddie Guerrero landed in that, really, like, wow, that must have hurt. But yeah, Chyna kept getting involved. Yeah, we had this thing where basically, I'm kind of paraphrasing a lot of this, but yeah, it's basically a situation of like, I think there was a bit of spot where Essa Rios jumped over the top rope, like literally launched over it, and then kind of hits a kind of like, like a planter on kind of Eddie Guerrero. It was like, man, that was awesome. We obviously had cool things where you had Eddie went for a move on the floor, and then you had like Lita went to the top, and then Chyna shoved her into the announce table at ringside, and Reza capitalised on this with a kind of springboard moonsault that again was pretty much what he's famous for, onto the announce table. I mean, that moonsault looked absolutely awesome, so cool. Again, like kind of like a suicide dive over the turnbuckle, onto the floor, looked great. It was basically one of these matches, it started off slow, but when it got going with the high spots and the cool spots, everyone was really into it. But yeah, it was kind of near the end, it's kind of sad. But yeah, obviously they ended with kind of Rios going to the top, as yet again kind of like Chyna tripping him up, and then Eddie Guerrero nailing the suplex, then a brainbuster. He nailed a kind of airplane spin into a net breaker and got the win. Kind of basically the match ended with him kind of basically taking advantage of the distraction, as you would expect. So, but yeah, ended a very, very good match. I mean, it's one of those matches that slow to get build up, but it worked fine for me. I think it was one of these things where it's just like you're trying to figure out what to do with this match, but then when they got to the kind of what it was point, like, high flying kind of crazy like spots with Essa Rios kind of a bit aerial ability, it kind of, then the crowd, the fans started getting into it. I kind of wish it was like for the whole match. The shenanigans I would have been not liked, but again, it's cool stuff. I mean, Eddie Guerrero was just finding his feet, I think, at this point. Obviously, after he's not really with the Radicals anymore, and obviously with Chyna doing something interesting and different, I think they were trying to make it like a sort of sex appeal symbol at this point. But it's backstage stuff. But yeah, it's kind of I kind of like the dynamic between Eddie Guerrero and kind of Chyna. It was kind of like an awkward kind of like Eddie Guerrero romantic kind of Chyna, just like. Just loving the kind of attention, like anyone would, I would. Like, kind of like, just someone just like, pampering her, loving her, saying she's amazing. Like, some people like that. And that's nice. It was a nice little, I brought out a bit more character from Chyna for this kind of feud as well, especially with Eddie Guerrero and kind of that kind of stuff, because for a lot of it, she was kind of like the kind of muscle. Like, we had the stuff with Jericho, but this kind of feud really was kind of what you think of Eddie Guerrero remembering in this era. That's kind of cool. But yeah, I think what the problem is, Matt, I just wish there was more of Essa Rios. I think he's one of those guys that, again, they put him in light heavyweight division, but it's like he was more of the guy that they did. Like, he was kind of like, he had the, like, the, you know, like, see, character, when I keep saying you'd be good talker and you could be good in the ring. You can have one or the other, but you can't have both. If you have both, you're great. If you have neither, you're screwed. With him, he's like kind of a situation of, like, he had the ability to win, but just a character. Didn't really have a character. It's more of just like this Hispanic kind of high flyer type thing. That's great, but it means he's limited what kind of stuff they can really do with him, especially when we're talking about SmackDown, kind of all like Raw and kind of WWF. At this point, was kind of catered towards kind of more character based. They kind of missed that, but I think if it was a different era, a different time when it was more wrestling based, kind of, you know, focused. I think if he had stayed in run about SmackDown during the Paul Heyman, I think he would have flourished. But I don't know what happened to him. It's kind of sad. I might look him up after this recording. But yeah, definitely look up Essa Rios. He had some good matches during the Attitude Era. Kind of miss, it's kind of missing. But yeah, I'll give it 3 out of 5. Started off slow, but near the end, it got some crazy spots, man. It was really cool. So I enjoy watching it. I mean, that's what I love about this kind of pay-per-view at the moment. Talking about it, it's like, it's a situation of like, just when you think you've got the ones that everyone remember, but then you just like got hidden gems. Malenko, you had Malenko and kind of Scotty Hotty. You had the kind of this match here between obviously European Championship. It kind of was on the back burner at this era. Sadly, it's probably more prominent in the mid to late 90s, but sadly in 2000s and later on it just became a bit of a back burner. Kind of sucky, but yeah. So it was good. So I just wish, it's one of those things that, this is why I like it. I'm enjoying this pay-per-view a lot. So, yeah, obviously we're almost there. We've got 2 more matches to talk about. Obviously, we talk about, before we get into the main event, we've got this really great match between the Intercontinental Champion Chris Benoit and Chris Jericho. And Chris Benoit's putting his title on the line in a basically kind of rematch from WrestleMania 2000. It's triple threat. Basically, it's like where both, Benoit won the Intercontinental title, and obviously Chris Jericho won the European title, but then got screwed by China. They didn't really resolve for maybe a week, and they didn't care. It's kind of, maybe it's the point, but yeah. So then we focused on, I think Benoit refocused his thoughts. He's having a good run with a couple of wins on TV. But yeah, it looks like probably as a favour from Jericho, from Triple H. I think so, obviously with the kind of terrible kind of things that Chris Jericho was saying to Stephanie McMahon. So I guess as Benoit and Stu kind of loosely related with the Radicals, kind of probably try and take him out. And obviously former champion, he's probably got a title rematch. But again, it's just an excuse to put these two together. I mean, this is around about the time they're properly building up Benoit as the kind of Benoit that we know and did love before. Obviously, we know what he did. But yeah, it's kind of a situation as his work. Yeah, it's one of these things. I think this was around about the time they try and big it up, and it was awesome. So, and obviously Jericho was finding his feet, and they really did Provident. Obviously, the old thing where he was originally in the WrestleMania 2000 poster, but then he wasn't, and then kind of having this is around about the time I think he's always said that he's kind of working up, like workhorse, working his way up, people respecting him. He's only been in the company for a couple of months at this point, so he's still working his way up the card. Obviously, we know how it all ended in 2001. So it's just like he done the work, and this was kind of thing. How this is the kind of match that made people start to realize how good Chris Jericho really is, because he kind of proved it in WCW. But this feud and this kind of this one a couple of months is where he started being, oh my god, Chris Jericho is awesome. This match did help with that. Obviously it started off with promos. You had obviously interviewed Chris Benoit, interviewed Marco, just talking trash about Jericho, saying he was like, it'd be his pleasure beating the living crap out of him, and Jericho being Jericho. Nothing crazy promo wise, kind of just saying how Benoit wasn't mad at him for calling Mr. Roboto. It's like, I think it's more than that in a feud, but it wouldn't be the worst thing. It wouldn't be the worst thing I've seen to get a feud out of him. Start a feud, but yeah, now obviously in Jericho another pop at politicians, because when the capital politicians are like that too, that kind of stuff. It's basically like wrestling in the capital. That's for reference how. Looking at politicians back then, I guess, and the trust wasn't there. But this is the kind of match that I said is like what the IC title is all about. Two of the kind of a stopgap to the main title or the world title, and kind of two of the workhorses, kind of great workers, going against each other, proving why they're great. This is what the Intercontinental Championship was meant to be and what it is. And I haven't seen, and I kind of missed it. It isn't anymore. I wish it was, but it's just not what it used to be. But we obviously started off with some cool, like kind of just a Japanese kind of style, back and forth hits. With Jericho Jericho going to back sloop it to the top. Obviously, I've already watched their kind of match at Royal Rumble 2001 with their ladder match with the bit with chucking a chair in his face while he's going through the ropes, but I didn't know what that was kind of alluding to. But then obviously watching this match, it all started from this match. So that was cool. We also got Benoit diving through the floor, and obviously Jericho just moved that way. So basically Benoit, it's kind of awkward because obviously he landed on his head and we all know what happened. It's kind of awkward, but he basically jumped for the ropes to land on nothing. So it's like, that must have hurt. Again, we had a cool bit with obviously Benoit hit a drop kick into the steps with the steps going into the ribs of Jericho. I kind of like that. It's kind of showed the brutality of Benoit. Again, it's kind of a situation of, because obviously Chris Benoit likes pain, it's basically working on the ribs. We had obviously the superplex on the top rope. Obviously there's the wheelie work on those ribs. Jericho, same thing with when Benoit went to the top, he kind of went. Yeah, when Benoit went to the top, he kind of missed out the way because Jericho went for a springboard dropkick. Benoit basically countered it, basically. Again, I don't see it as much these days, but Chris Jericho does really cool, like double powerbomb. The double powerbomb thing used to be his finisher before there was Jericho for the two. Then obviously the cripple. This kind of part of the match where it got really cool because, you know, counters, kickouts, near falls. They done it well. They just basically, it was a slow, like, kind of technical match, but then it got really like high flying and brutal. You know, obviously cripple crossface by Benoit, but then Jericho was able to get on his feet. The crowd were totally into this match at this point. There's like a slow build. It's like they were totally into that. Wrestling fans just love great workers and great people putting everything on the line, and it's to prove this is the feud that kind of catapulted them both up the card. It's beautiful. Again, obviously they both hit the finishers. It was Jericho putting the walls Jericho, but Benoit was able to get it easy. The crowd were again really hot for this, but these near full like submission finishes. They were totally into it. Yeah, then we have some Jericho go for went for a full arm. Benoit ducks. And kind of, again, the ref got knocked out. It's kind of, they did do this spot too much in the Attitude Era. But yeah, so the referee, as you know, is like made of paper. So when he's knocked out, he's out for years, or in this case, many minutes. But yeah, obviously then it all stale for the title. Kind of Jericho obviously used it, I think, at Royal Rumble, when it's kind of used the title to try and get the cheap win. But Benoit going to grab the title, and he nailed kind of Jericho in the head. Benoit tried to wake up the ref. He kind of covered, but then obviously he was about to cover, and Jericho got up, just got up for the two. Benoit went for the suplex on the title, but it didn't work, and obviously went to the top. He was going to hit his headbutt. I think the ref was kind of too dazed at this point. Jericho basically grabbed the belt, and he was going to he went for the headbutt. It's a great picture if you really see it. It's like he went for the headbutt, and then Jericho basically he put the title in a position where basically Benoit landed straight on the title. The referee saw it, so it ended in disqualification, and Benoit won the match. Obviously normally you'd be a bit annoyed, like, DQ, not DQ, but in this case it worked because obviously Jericho basically lost it at the end. Tim White of all people, and basically hit walls of Jericho. Again, it kind of like stared up the kind of Jericho might turn heel at this point. It was around about this time he turned heel. But yeah, I can understand the frustration, but on the flip side, he did freaking, basically, he used the title, the ref saw it, Benoit got the lucky win, but normally a DQ thing would be a finish, but it was entertaining enough, and it was actually quite clever. He got away with it at Royal Rumble, so he can't get away with it again. But did you in this like kind of feud, Jericho, I like the unique way of using the title as a way to end the match. It was the right call, but Jericho was just really frustrated because, he got caught and he was frustrated, but it kind of ended in a really good technical match. Again, the fans are loving this match. Good counters, great kind of spots. Both wrestlers showing how great they are. How, we're talking about, we all look at Benoit, maybe the character, I mean Benoit, not the man. But when it comes to his in-ring ability, this was around about the time he was proving how great he was and how good he was in the ring, and Jericho was doing the same. So when you got two hungry kind of upstarts trying to prove how good they are, and give them, how long did they give them? Like 15 minutes, the same thing, 15 minutes to do what they do, and basically prove how, just the spot just before the main event, and just basically went for it. And they freaking knocked it out of the park here, man. It's a great match. I mean, I suggest you watch it. I mean, just watch this whole feud between Benoit and Jericho. I think, obviously, for my Jericho best match series I did watch their Royal Rumble ladder match at 2001. That's could be one of the greatest ladder matches of all time. And it's so good. It's kind of, I don't want to say it's forgotten, but it's amazing. So definitely check both of those matches out, because definitely check this one out as well if you can. But yeah, it was great. I gave it a 3 out of 5, but then I think watching it back and talking about it now, I'm going to give it a 4. It's brilliant. It's the kind of sport that the Intercontinental Championship should be, and I 100% believe it's the place that it should be, and it's proven it was worth it. 15 minutes of just these two guys going for it. Great counters, great stuff. Awesome match. Definitely check it out. So, and it builds up to what we want to talk about now. We're into the main events of this show, and kind of the thing that kind of everyone was kind of talking about and kind of bigging up. Why people are kind of watching this show is the kind of hook that returning Stone Cold Steve Austin is returning to help out The Rock to even up the odds with Triple H having Stephanie McMahon, husband. At this point, it was kayfabe. It was in storyline husband, and Vince McMahon that turned on The Rock, obviously at WrestleMania 2000. That's kind of one at the time was the worst WrestleMania main events all time. Obviously, some have topped that over the years, but at this time, it was considered one of the worst. But yes, so obviously it was all set up, and obviously Stone Cold Steve Austin, Linda McMahon wanted to even the odds, and obviously we just came off one of the single most famous kind of SmackDowns ever, with Stone Cold, The Rock saying Stone Cold Steve Austin is here, and the whole night of them trying to find him, and with the famous thing with Stone Cold Steve Austin construction blowing up the DX Express in some of the most awesome stuff. So it's one of those things where basically I don't think Austin's back yet in the sense of in-ring. Apparently he was supposed to be back for WrestleMania 2000 apparently, but he wasn't cleared. So they kind of teased it for the night that basically I think Vince McMahon was kind of coming off that, Steve Austin has been delayed, so he won't be here tonight. So it's probably what dirty tactics they were trying to do to make sure he would not turn up. But yeah, obviously the build up to this is kind of build of The Rock. Obviously at WrestleMania 2000, The Rock was screwed by Vince McMahon. Kind of the feud with Vince McMahon rejoining the kind of McMahon Helsby faction era, kind of breathe new life to it. But obviously the Rock, the kind of first episode of Raw after WrestleMania, The Rock kind of won the right to face Triple H WWE Championship at Backlash, but the faction made stipulations at the title match that would give Triple H full advantage basically, and Vince and Stephanie would be allowed to be at ringside of the match, with Shane being their special guest referee. Yeah, but basically it's a situation where they kind of done everything they can to make sure he didn't win the title. They put him in a title match where he won it, and he basically got the title shot as you expect. It's typical great storytelling where it's like popular guy, put all the odds stacked against him, he still gets to win. Obviously, in addition to this, they also done a faction with obviously El Hebner was in feud after the kind of situation where he kind of took the count for when the Jericho won the title against Triple H in a random thing that they kind of struck from the record point. She did talk about that. But as I said before, it's kind of a Linda McMahon kind of stepping in, saying with it's bullcrap. Basically, he said Stone Cold Steve Austin will be in the corner, basically The Rock. And the whole thing was, as we just said, with the whole famous kind of SmackDown, the last one before, basically came back for first appearance in 6 months, and basically put a crane on DX Express, and he exploded in one of the most iconic things you'll ever see. It's awesome. So yeah, it was basically one of those things where it's just the build up it's one of the stories that just such a good build up. I can't remember last time I watched the wrestling feud to have this kind of great build up. You could say maybe AEW this year, maybe WWE, NXT maybe, but nothing beats up to the kind of, Triple H was on fire as the heel in 2000, and kind of The Rock, they were lucky with Stone Cold Steve Austin out, that kind of, they had The Rock, and he was awesome as well. He was on fire as well. I didn't see, watching up to this match, The Rock hasn't had a bad promo. He's been on fire at this point. It's either like, Triple H is like, it's his year as a heel, but The Rock basically took full advantage of being the guy. But, yeah, and basically, like, pretty much like first half of this match was kind of a situation where, like, Austin still didn't turn up. No one knew who he was. So most of the match, they were kind of talking about that. And basically at the moment, it's going to be a 4-on-1 with a crooked ref, 2 people on the side, 2 people on the outside, and basically Triple H could do whatever he wants. But yeah, it was basically a situation where The Rock was basically getting his ass handed to him. Basically, Triple H was in complete control. Getting near, trying to end it quickly with near falls, but The Rock kept kicking out. Even though Shane was doing faster counts as you expect from a crooked ref. They were basically doing everything to get the win and get the fast cut as quickly as possible. You had like a double clothesline kind of spot where both guys were on the mat. Shane wasn't looking, and basically the old kind of, the ref was mysteriously taking too long, like distracted, on this case on purpose, and it's basically like Vince McMahon kind of beating the hell out of him. Basically taking advantage of the ref not seeing it. And a lot of the sayings really cool line was, so Austin was there was what happened, but before kicked out of another fast count, and basically the whole crowd were like, this is why this match was really good, in the sense that if they really wanted Austin to tease it out as much as possible, he gets attacked, fast count, but everything against him, The Rock still stays in it. But events, how long could he take? How long could he last? It's so cool. Such good stuff here. Obviously, you had the bit where The Rock send Hunter over the top for the floor, and then back to ring, and then we get back to the ring with a knee smash by was it Triple H? It comes back with that DDT, but then Shane didn't count. That kind of like, I don't know if it's like Survivor Series. Was it a couple of years ago? I think the year prior. Obviously, Shane done the thing. Was it Stone Cold or something where he was supposed to do the pin? He refused to do the count. So basically, it's like, you're just like, oh, for God's sake, how the hell is The Rock gonna get back into this? Yeah. And then obviously, and after this, it was just a constant beatdown. Hunter still doing with the steps. We had that kind of like, as always, the Spanish announce table, poor Spanish announce table, always gets taken out. The Rock hits a low blow on Hunter when he's on top of the table, and then Shane got onto the table. And then you're sitting there with, it's one of the most awesome spots you ever see, when you got The Rock hitting a rock bottom on both Triple H and Shane. So the ref's out. So we've got no ref, and basically Shane's out. It was a huge move. Obviously, the table spot's been done to death at this point, in this era as well as in general. Well, I think it's every kind of big match, there's always a table spot at some point. But it's still cut when they done it right, with like, whether we're bigging up the Rock's basically he's getting screwed. It's only a matter of time before he loses. So the cricket, that's one person out, so Shane's out. We've got Vince, there was a shot look on his face that, again, Vince is Vince, great in this era. Then we get back to the ring, and obviously you've got Vince kind of attacking The Rock from behind. Then they went after him, but basically Triple H got back up and hit a low blow, and then nailed a pedigree on The Rock. Should have been over. Basically, no ref, because obviously The Rock took him out. Basically, it's like the odds are still stacked against him. It's basically Attitude Era clusterfucking than you've ever seen. It's basically what you expect. It works. When it works well, it works well. And when it doesn't work well, WrestleMania 2000, it's horrible. It's just such rubbish. But in this case, it works brilliantly here. You got, Vince McMahon trying to just basically, Shane's out, so they're trying to use all these, like, obviously, Pat Patterson, you rest in peace, Pat Patterson, and JL Briscoe, kind of like his goons, coming out to do like Gouda pin, but The Rock kicks out of two, so it's like, again, they're trying everything in the picture, but just can't beat The Rock. Then it's like Pat Patterson and Briscoe attacking The Rock. Then you've got Triple H coming back doing the same. It's basically a 3-on-1 or like a 4-on-1 mugging. At this point, it's getting ridiculous. Vince gets the chair. He nails The Rock with the head, like he did at WrestleMania 2000. Then you got Vince fell over after he hit him because he put so much so much kind of like talk into it. Again, it was like a situation after this point you were like waiting for it. You were waiting for it, like, okay, this moment. No, this moment. You were like, because the whole match you know Austin's going to be there at some point. They wouldn't tease it and then not him turn up. You were waiting for it. And I think they really milked the hell out of it just when you thought the obvious moments when he would come out. And just when you thought, oh my God, he might not come out, and then boom, the glass smashes and then Stone Cold Steve Austin comes out and I said he would have done it earlier, but again, teasing the hell out of it. I would do it. It's like you want someone to be there so much and you wait to the last possible minute you can do it. You do it. And that's what he did, and he got Austin walking down. Not looking too great. I think it might have been a bit too soon. I think he still had a knee injury. He's walking a bit slower than he would be. You basically just have Austin walking down with a chair in his hand. He looked a bit out. He looked like he just came out of neck surgery. So he looked a bit, a little weighted and all that kind. The crowd don't care anyway. Comes up, he sits in a chair. Was it a chair to Triple H, a chair to Patterson, a chair to Briscoe into the ring, and then kind of Austin hits the chair on the head of Shane, and then hits the chair. Basically, it's a constant smack. Austin comes out, cleans house. The crowd is basically losing their minds at this point. As someone said, react to anything. It was amazing. It's one of the main reasons why actually it was so good, because they really milked the moments felt special when they happened. I mean, Austin's one of the reasons because of that. But yeah, and obviously they didn't mess around. You got Austin basically, and then you got taking everyone out, and then obviously Hunter gets back in the ring, and Austin nails him with a chair shot as well. But yeah, and obviously there's Austin. Just basically then he just comes out, does it. It's like Vin comes out, cleans house, even the odds. He walks out. He's done his job. He's done his job as kind of helping out The Rock. Yep, and then obviously Austin left, and with everyone just wow, there's shock at this point. Then Linda McMahon walks down and aside with the recently fired El Hebner, who is was fired. Linda McMahon shoving her own daughter down. Obviously, they had that really shocking moment building in with kind of Stephanie slapping her own mother, and then kind of her mother doing the same thing to her. That's kind of strange situation. The way they built up with kind of Shane, Triple H was going to hit a pedigree on Linda, building up into this match, and then kind of Shane's what are you doing, man? I like the kind of nuance where it's just he's not, even Shane's mate, I'm a dick, but you don't do that to my mother. I kind of like the nuances, but anyway, kind of sidetracking here. We're talking a lot here, I'm sorry. But yeah, we're near the end of the match anyway, so, Linda shoved, Stephanie McMahon down, and obviously then The Rock nailed Hunter with the spine buster, and then hit the people's elbow. El Hebner comes into the ring, 1, 2, and then 3, and it's and the crowd went nuts. You're finally, Triple H has been defeated. The Rock has finally won the WWF Championship. Looking at the time, this is only 19-20 minutes. It's 20 minutes of just pure storytelling perfection here. It's just so good. You had the constant build-up. You had the kind of situation where the odds and stats against you, they kept building up how long can Austin, The Rock last. You had obviously cheating, the referee, slow counts, everything. The comeback was the right time. They teased that thing with Austin coming out as much as humanly possible, and at first I was thinking, okay, it could have been earlier, but any time he came out, the crowd would have just waiting for it, so why not tease it out when Austin came out? Done what Austin does best. He looks a bit out, but you done what you need to do. Come out, clean house with chair shots, everyone's out, does his job, go home. A nice little penance for kind of a build-up of obviously the El Hebner stuff being fired. He gets his kind of comeuppance and kind of, his redemption of kind of sticking it to Triple H after all those years, all them months of kind of being berated by him. Obviously, it still goes on, but going into it. But yeah, got the win. Just a great moment. I can't remember last time I watched a pay-per-view. The Rock, it would have been nice to be in a WrestleMania, but The Rock finally, and I say that finally, became the WWF champion, and it was a great moment. You had a bit where near the end where you got Austin coming back into the ring, driving his Stone Cold truck, trolley in the kind of DX Express, kind of stick it to Triple H. It's kind of funny. And then we had a great moment near the end where you got Austin had a beer, toasting The Rock, cleanse your beer, and to end the show in a very, very great way. And also it kind of teases kind of when The Rock with Stone Cold Steve Austin comes back. We're friends today, but he's going after that title. That we all know where that story went. But yeah, ended Great show. Great show. I mean, I don't think people underestimate the ability of a main event that kind of properly delivers. Some shows you're going to have a situation where like some of the matches some of them are quite good. Like you got like good to kind of like great. But in this case, we had 2 or 3 great, like really good matchups. Like in a sense of like pure wrestling standpoint. But I think why this is remembered as one of the greats, best pay-per-view all time, is because they build up this main event and storyline for months and months and months, and the payoff is so satisfying when you give the people what they want. People wanted The Rock to win, and they wanted Triple H to it was such a good heel, like just get that title, wants him to get comeuppance, and he did. And it's just like, it's a perfect storm. It's like they did this so well where they build up a storyline, you get invested, and they pay it off, and it feels so satisfying. That's why the Attitude Era was so loved, because it just had awesome moments and it had good payoffs and it had great characters. That's why everyone loved it. I mean, this is a perfect example of why the Attitude Era was so great. You obviously had The Rock was good at playing the sympathetic face. You had the kind of Triple H was a great heel. Vince McMahon was so good at being hated. You hated these people, the heels. They weren't cool heels. They were, like screw you heels. Proper heels. And then when the good guy wins, it's just a great feeling. It's a great feeling. It's like you can watch it back, and it's so satisfying to wrestle. You don't get it as much as you used to. Where it's just you build up all this stuff, and you build it up, and you build it up, and then the good guy wins in the end. No swerves. No bullshit. Get the people what they want. They wanted The Rock to win the WWF Championship. They built up him getting screwed over and over and over again. And he finally goes against the odds. And he finally wins. And it's just so satisfying. And especially how popular The Rock was at that point. It was just so cool. And it ended a great pay-per-view. I mean, everyone kept telling me how great this pay-per-view was. And they weren't underestimating. It's really good. I mean, you've got what's kind of like good matches in the sense of the tag team title match. It was quite decent. You had the kind of TNA kind of the Dudley boys kind of, maybe not the match, but they kind of got the satisfying thing with Trish going for the table. Yes, obviously, and then you had that great match, otherwise appreciated match with Malenko and Scotty Hotty for for the light heavyweight championship. Probably one of the better matches they ever did. That was great. Even the matches that like the APA kind of thing was a bit, and Big Boss Man and Bill Buchanan was kind of a bit of a dud for me. But the hardcore match still had some cool spots that were kind of enough to get you in stayed. Big Show was one of my cup of tea, but it was kind of funny. Obviously Eddie Guerrero, Essa, Rios, they were given a bit more time, but again, near the end it got really good, so that was a pretty solid match. But if I'm going to sit there, the 2-3 of the best matches on this card are Malenko and Scotty Hotty, Chris Benoit and Chris Jericho for the Intercontinental title, and the main event. And we're not talking about good, it was really good. Great. And when you got a main event that delivers in the way that this main event did with The Rock and Triple H, it bumps up any score. I've given most of the shows over 8s. I think 8s or 9s. I gave this show an 8 out of 10. I'm tempted to give it 9 because I'm tempted to bump it up because it's so satisfying. So satisfying. I think 1 or 2 of the matches were a bit like dud, but if you go by like that, but it's like 2 bad matches and the rest of them are pretty damn good. I haven't seen a pay-per-view this good in a long time. So like solid back to front. Probably maybe AEW, but that's kind of, I don't really want to get into that. But yeah, it's like I've seen a couple like the Royal Rumble was good. No Way Out was pretty similar in the sense of quality wise, consistent quality. WrestleMania kind of, less we talk about that, the better. But yeah, this is awesome. Definitely check out Backlash. I'm so glad that I can't believe this is the first time I've actually watched it. Shame on me, but this is what this whole podcast is all about. Kind of made it up for an excuse for me to go back and watch all these great pay-per-views of the past, or like in this say sort of see what the fuss is about year 2000, and I haven't been disappointed. I mean, I'm really enjoying it. And I've got to be honest, as much as I could have talked about this pay-per-view earlier, I'm so glad that it's the last pay-per-view I'm going to talk about 2020. End it on a high. It's been a rubbish year. So if I was going to give it an 8, but now I'm going to bump it up to a 9 because that main event was so good. So satisfying. So I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. I mean, you could say 10 out of 10, but I'll give 9 out of 10 just to be safe. So yeah, so that's the end of my review of WWF Backlash 2000. Hope you enjoyed. I always enjoy looking at these pay-per-views. Sorry I've been a bit, haven't done as many. My plan was to get all these done by the end of the year. But, as you can probably guess, with the pandemic, plans have gone out the window this year. So, yeah, hope you've enjoyed me listening to this. Hopefully it'll be a nice little respite for you, going into my new year, something to listen to going in to the start of 2021. When it comes to this, I will be back hopefully soon. I'm not going to put a timetable on it because it's kind of hard to do in the pandemic era. But I'll try to make this kind of like, we're definitely back in January, definitely, by far. I'll come back and I'll try and see if I can hit the ball rolling in 2021. I think the next pay-per-view I'm going to look at is probably Insurrection 2000. It's one of two kind of one's UK-based kind of pay-per-views that, again, I really miss. So it'll be interesting to actually talk about, we can sit there and talk about, the match, the pay-per-view, and us talk about how they kind of done UK events back in the day. So it'd be interesting to talk about that. So, yeah, hope you've enjoyed. If you want to follow me on Twitter, you can go on Stuart Irvine 91. Also, if you want to follow kind of like this Josh USA podcast and other stuff I do with Josh Plummer, go on Josh and Stu Pod on our Twitter. Definitely check it out. We're doing a lot of other programs on that, so definitely check that out. I've got a lot of 1 or 2 really big plans coming into when it comes to 2021 for this podcast, for other projects and wrestling projects I want to do. So it's going to be, as always, I've always got ideas. I don't think I'll ever run out of ideas. But, So, we'll be back. We'll see you at some point for Insurrection. Should be fun. I'll be back personally when it comes to podcasting with, if you just do wrestling podcasts, we're doing our kind of JSP kind of end of the year awards kind of situation. Look at all the great matches, great wrestlers, best moments. It's going to be fun. So check that out next couple of days. That'll be out before the end of 2020. Anyway, but enough of me rambling on. I think you've listened to me for nearly 2 hours now. Obviously, I might put that down, but yes, hope you've enjoyed. I've enjoyed talking about the pay-per-view. Definitely check out Backlash. It's so cool. So awesome. If you want to know what defines why everyone loves Reactor there, watch this pay-per-view, and you will not be disappointed, especially main event. So check that out. I'll be back soon. Hope you've enjoyed. Have an awesome what's left of 2020, and I'll hopefully see you on the other side of 2021. So until then, have an awesome day, and see you guys later. See you, everyone. Bye.